join as they get in. But firstly, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. It's episode 11 of our series, helping explore how tax technology can help you. Hopefully, we can come from a glamorous location for our episode 12. We're looking forward to that. Our last session, we focused very much on how small automation is helping to transform tax functions. But today, we go back to specifics. And it's everybody's favorite hot topic at the moment. It's Pillar 2. As always, a couple of quick housekeeping points. Today's session will be recorded. There's an opportunity for questions. Please do use the Q&A option rather than the chat in Zoom, and I'll pick those up at the end. There's an opportunity for a follow-up session. You'll get an email giving you some options in terms of registering for a deeper dive. And as always, we'll keep it to 30 minutes. So on to the main event. I'm Ian Bowden, tax partner and head of our tax automation practice. The purpose of this series is to explore that art of the possible, help raise awareness, and help you find a better way. We pick a different topic each month with different special guests. Please do check out our previous videos on our website. I mentioned today's session focuses on the hot topic of the moment, which is Pillar 2. Appreciate for our December year-end businesses out there, tax provision and the year-end is going to be taking up a large proportion of your time. But we fully expect Pillar 2 is your next priority. And with so much noise out there, knowing where to start can be challenging. Please do keep an eye out for our next global webinar on the 21st of February with some of my global colleagues where they share their perspectives. But on to today. With the tax technology market, it's responded really, really well to this new requirement. And I'm delighted today to be joined by one of those. It's ARRK Solutions, a real UK success story who found their way into the tax arena via data consolidation. And they're offering some great options for broader in the tax function. So Roy and Claire, thank you both very, very much for joining. We really do appreciate it. Before we jump into ARRK, as always with these sessions, we do like to provide a little bit of a market view on today's topic. So joining me this morning to discuss all things Pillar 2 technology is Ashan. Over to you.
Thank you, Ian. I'm Ashan. My background is in implementing specialist third-party tax solutions with a focus on tax provision and now Pillar 2. I wanted to cover two main items today. Firstly, an overview of the Pillar 2 technology market and our approach as a firm. And secondly, insight into some of the things my clients have been doing in the space. So as you can see from the slide in front of you, there are more than a dozen vendors who have developed a Pillar 2 solutions with different levels of support. We are an approved implementation partner for all the leading solutions, including ARRK, who you will hear from today. We are vendor agnostic. Our approach usually involves starting with your existing systems before exploring alternatives. And we take a holistic approach as the market has moved away from a point solution into a more integrated best of breed approach, particularly looking at how a solution can be leveraged for multiple purposes. Appreciate it isn't everyone's job, but it is ours. We help narrow down that selections and identify the right one for you. Some of the clients I've worked with, for example, they haven't realized their existing consolidation system has a new Pillar 2 module, which then helps them build their business case as the data will be more integrated. Pillar 2 is a data challenge, and having access to the data is key to winning that challenge. Others have started with their existing tax provision process. And some of our clients have found between 20 to 40% of the data required for Pillar 2 from their year-end process. Because it's the data challenge, those vendors who are able to take data from multiple sources and almost offer a data consolidation system are proving to be popular. Some of the questions for you to think about when you're considering some of these solutions besides the core functionalities are, for example, rather than expecting data to be in a preset format, can the data be transformed directly inside the tool? And can it connect to multiple different systems? Once the data is available, what else can you use the data for? If you are going to the trouble gathering data for Pillar 2, are there options to reuse it for other purposes? Moving to my second item, so the insight into some of the things our clients are doing in the space. I've got four key observations that I would like to share with you today. One, the vast majority by now have completed some kind of impact assessment using their 2023 sets of data. Second, our December year-end clients also disclosed high-level findings from the impact assessment in notes to their financial account. Third, clients are preparing to execute their Pillar 2 procedures concurrently with the quarterly tax preparation process. And fourth and finally, while we have seen a wide array of different approaches to impact assessment, we're not seeing clients looking to create their own Pillar 2 calculation. With over 400 data points, complex calculation, and a requirement to generate a global information return, groups are examining available technologies to help. And this is not the time to self-build. With the first quarter after the Pillar 2 effective date in Europe and UK fast approaching, we're seeing a spike in demand for our services. And my key message to you today would be to start working on this now. There's more work than you may think, even for the relatively simple group. This is one of the biggest changes to the industry I've seen, and the clients are using this to help secure budget, consider wider transformation initiative. MTD for CT in the UK, for example, is just around the corner. And with e-invoicing growing in popularity, now is the time to look at your process holistically and your tax functions and recognize that we all face significant data challenges ahead. This is our time to act. With so many great solutions available, we're delighted to showcase just one example today. We like the ARRK solution as it offers more than just Pillar 2 capabilities. It provides a platform to transfer pricing, VAT, country-by-country reporting, and more. And without further ado, I'll hand over to the ARRK team.
Thanks very much. Good morning, everybody. Thanks ever so much for joining us today. My role in the webinar this morning is to provide you with a little bit of context around ARRK and how our Pillar 2 solutions come about. So I'm essentially the storyteller before we get onto the main event. I'm sure many of you guys are here today to look at the tool in action. So I promise I won't take too much of your time, just about 5 minutes, so please bear with me. And then I'll pass you over to Roy, who you can see on your screen, and he'll run you through the tool that we've got to solve the Pillar 2 data challenge that exists within the businesses today. So with any good story, the best place to start is at the beginning. So in terms of ARRK, just to give you a really high level version of how we came about, we've been around now for over 15 years. We started as a regulatory reporting business, and we were created by two guys, one of which you can see on your screen today, Roy. Roy is not only one of our original founders, he is also our Chief Technology and Product Officer and is the brains behind the platform that you're going to see today. I always like to introduce Roy because he massively undersells himself. So he created what you're about to see, and hopefully you like it. So 15 years ago, we started off as a regulatory reporting business. And as most businesses do, we've evolved over time. And about 6 or 7 years ago, the business decided to invest in creating a multi-use automation tool for tax and finance functions. I have to say our timing was good because at the inception of the tool, the MTD mandate came out, and it allowed us to embed our multi-use automation platform into a great number of businesses to solve that VAT automation challenge. So the platform itself has been built with scale in mind, and whilst originally it was to satisfy the MTD mandate, we now see that it's developed into a multi-use tool. And as Ashan said, we've got lots of user cases that come off the back of it, such as automating your operational transfer pricing, and specifically today, it's the Pillar 2 challenge. So bear with me. Here we go. So I love a graphic because I think a picture speaks 1,000 words. So this just gives you an indication as to what our platform does and how it works. So the best way to describe our tool is as a data aggregation tool that is completely source agnostic. So as Shan just mentioned earlier in his preamble, actually one of the things that a lot of businesses are looking for is a tool that can actually transform your data within the tool, as opposed to having to do that huge amount of manual manipulation to pull single files together to put in a templated format to push through to a system that can ultimately create whatever your desired output is. So we talk about being a data aggregator that's source agnostic, but what does that actually mean? We will take your data as it exists in its current format today from any source and from multiple sources. We will map that into our platform and our sophisticated calculation engine, and we then apply the set of rules, processes, policies, calculations, whatever it may be, to that data and transform that data and enrich that data once it hits the tool. The idea then being is that it will perform whatever it is that it's geared up to do, and it will then provide you with an output. So the tool itself, as I said, has been around for 6 or 7 years now, and it is this tool, so it's the existing technology that we have today that is providing the Pillar 2 output to the customers that we're working with. You'll see there that actually we are underpinned by Power BI. We have Power BI built into our platform, which is absolutely crucial for our customers, regardless of the output. I'm sure there are a number of you on the call today that have had that message that says, right, I need all of this analysis, I need all of this data, I want to run historical comparisons, and I need that tomorrow, thanks very much, which is incredibly difficult to do against a manual process. So having the Power BI built into our platform allows you as the users to run anything that is required in terms of analysis, management, information, comparisons, allows you to do that in real time, pointing at the right data set, and provide everything that you need in the format that's required. So Roy's going to come on and show you a bit more about how the Power BI works specifically in the tool for Pillar 2. And then ultimately, to close that loop, the platform is able to create various formats, whether it be correction journals, filings, so on and so forth, for you to push back through into any of your third-party or proprietary systems. Therefore, you've always got that constant loop going through, and you can be sure that the process is run seamlessly. So in terms of how that specifically looks for Pillar 2, this is just a rough guide as to how we walk you through that process. Pillar 2 is very much requires obviously the advisory side of things to understand the War and Peace that is the OECD guidelines. But as Shan said at the very beginning, Pillar 2 is a data challenge. So for us to work effectively with our customers, we do a deep dive into your current state of readiness. One of the fabulous things about ARRK is our flexibility. So what we're finding in the market at the moment is that we have customers that sit in one of two camps. You have those customers that have a fairly simple structure set up, low number of source systems, and fairly clean data, and they know that actually the material impact is not going to be particularly big, and actually the process itself is not going to be particularly complex. On the flip side of the coin, we then have those customers that we're engaging with that have thousands of entities across hundreds of jurisdictions, very disparate data sources, formats, finance and tax functions, and actually there's a lot more work involved in terms of mapping that through. So we work with you to understand where you are today, and then to support you in the data challenge by working with you to help you identify where we can find those relevant data points. Again, as Shan said, we are a multi-use tool, so we propose to our customers that we support you with the automation of your country by country. But again, we are a data aggregator, so we can also consume that data if you're comfortable and happy with your existing process. We then run the safe harbor calculations for you, push you through to the preparation for Globy, as Ian said at the beginning, 400 plus data points, very different to what we need for the safe harbors. And then we produce your final Globy filing output. And at ARRK, we have inbuilt XML engine, which of course is the anticipated format in which it will be required. So how that looks in terms of how does our platform specifically cater for Pillar 2? You can see here, we are ready, we are geared up, we understand that the input that is required is going to be vast in terms of the systems and the data. We recognise that and we're geared up for it. So just to take you back to the beginning, we are a data aggregator. So the point that Asham made in relation to being able to transform your data within a tool, that is exactly what we do. We are data specialists. So we'll look to take the input from your various systems, push it through to the ARRK automation platform, which will perform the complex set of calculations, rules, policy, to then give you your pillar 2 output. And as you can see there, whether that be safe harbors, global filing, CBC, etc., etc. A few things to call out here. You'll see we've listed some of the features. When we're talking to our customers, the key things that are resonating are the fact that actually our tool is built on existing technology. We're not a point-to-point solution. We haven't created something brand new for Pillar 2. We have a proven and existing technology that lives in hundreds of customers today, solving the data challenges that exist within those businesses. So there's real comfort in bringing on a tool that actually has that proven element to it. Full transparency and audit, I think that goes without saying. So there are a lot of features that you'd expect to be prevalent within a platform like ARRK, and they are all there. But the audit trail and the transparency is something that's been crucial. And actually alongside the ability to mechanize and have manual entry. So us telling you that we can automate everything is fantastic, but actually if you don't have that original source data somewhere where we can map it into the system, that could present a challenge. So it's been designed and built to allow you to do both. The idea is we do your heavy lifting for you and mechanize everything we can, but we also make sure the flexibility exists within there for you to be able to manually input, and also there are some self-service elements in there to support you on your journey. There is a lot of sensitive data that sits around Pillar 2, and we are aware of that. So of course, again, one of the standard functionalities that you'd expect to see is sophisticated workflows and permissions, meaning that we are able to make sure that actually only the right people see the right part of the workflow and the right level of data. Everything is underpinned by Power BI, as it is with all of our outputs, and Roy's going to come on and talk to you about that. So that is my story for today. I hope that was useful. I'll pass you over to Roy because this is probably the bit you want to see. Thanks very much for listening.
Thanks, Cara. Right. Good morning, everybody. Hello. So just to contextualize a bit more, what we're going to go through now is a simplified version, if you like, of a workflow pulled together to do some safe harbor analysis and some top-up tax calculations. As Claire alluded to, this is a configurable platform. So we got these components, we pull them together as per requirement for the customers. There's a core element here that's shared for the safe harbors and Pillar 2 global calculations, but all throughout, in terms of which data elements we've combined and how we get to this is bespoke to a customer. And so what we're going to see here is not fully realistic. I've sort of trimmed this down a bit in order to make it possible to go through in a meaningful sort of time frame that we've got here. So we start first with just a bit of color on the BI side. As Claire said, what's happening here is that within the platform's workflows, the data that's produced by the workflows is captured in the data library. That is versioned, that is controlled. So it's not just a question of, what's in the bucket, but that it has gone through a rigid process. There's some governance to it and so forth. And then we put BI reports on top of it. We give you the keys as well, so you can add your own BI reports on top of it. And effectively, you're consuming this data within your workflows. So this is the end result, if you like, of this little one. We see the result here of my safe harbor analysis. I've got a small group. I've got like 15 companies, 7 of which have passed based on the ETR. Their effective tax rate, being over 15%. We've got additional visuals here just to show the details of the tests that were applied. So I'm sure by now you've seen all 3 of them. Sadly, nobody in my group is small enough to pass the de minimis test. As we alluded to, I've got 7 out of the group that have passed the effective tax rate, and I can see the distributions, and neither has anybody passed the test against their substance-based income exclusion. So we can see that here. We can see the general performance and the carve-outs, but the fact that nobody has actually topped the profit. And the last thing, of course, that we're going to come through to in this workflow is an actual calculation of some top-up tax. Oddly enough, there's less to say at this point. This is the high-level summary of where things are going to go. What you see here are the excluded jurisdictions because they passed the test, they're not of interest, and also because of the effective tax rate, they've got nothing to contribute. Whereas the 4 remaining jurisdictions have some contributions to make based on the total calculation. And again, the visualizations here are just to give some flavor. The point is that whatever you'd like to see in terms of exploration of your own data is made possible with the platform. Now, I'm going to go back to the beginning and what is actually happening here in terms of the actual flow set up in order to get the result. So the journey starts with data aggregation, with data collection, and we start with getting in a feed from, in this case, a SAP. We take the format. This is the trial balance as it comes out of the system. Whatever the client has lying around, we take that in, as well as configurations and schedules that we maintain for the customer. So there's multiple things here. We rig this up. Again, there's some elements here that are specific for Globi, some things that are specific for the customer. For example, I just wanted to show you this. So the actual levers that feed in the calculation, such as the financier versus to apply safe harbor test, what the ETR threshold or the factors used for the carve out, these are all parameterized. It's not a black box. It's all here laid out and quite easily accessible. What happens is when we consume the data, there's multiple avenues. Sometimes it's just about playing this back, giving you the users the ability to review the data. Sometimes it's about editing. So there's an element here that you could actually affect input, and whether or not it's calculated or just for review purposes or editable is again configurable. What you see here, we just pulled in some general information, some entity elections, some jurisdiction details on elections, and so on. So that's for the data that comes in straight through. There's also the manipulation of data. Sometimes it's about calculation. A lot of the time, especially when we move from account level information into the aggregations that we need, there's a mapping involved. I'm not going to labor too much. I'll just say that effectively, we map your chart of accounts into the various factors, into the various aspects that we need in the calculation in order to pre-populate some of the schedules and some of the things that are relevant. In other words, if you've got the information and we can consume it, we'll transform it and we'll plug that into the result. And if not, as I'll come to later, you effectively can edit and put in the adjustments. And what I expect, generally speaking, is that there's definitely elements that are very common that exist, like here's some payroll breakdowns. That's common in the trial balance. But of course, when you speak about the various adjustments that are specific for Globi, I don't think anybody maintains it at the moment. So there's definitely more of a manual entry that's going to be required as you go through and work through this workflow. Before jumping ahead, I'll go back a tiny bit to say that throughout the workflow, we put out these little steps in the calculations themselves. So the idea is that nothing is hidden. We can expose more or less. What we don't want is a black box effect. So we can show you what's going on. Not usually during working, but during test phases, when we do parallel, when we do test runs or user acceptance, there's this handy export to Excel facility. So you always have access to the data, you can always go and ask some more deeper questions in case you're not sure about what's going on. But as I say, that's usually that plays more of a part during testing rather than during the actual run. As I said, things flow through, so the data flows through all along. The calculations kick in and come to the end. Thank you, Claire, for reminding me. I will say just maybe a couple more points. One is that through and through, there's an audit log of changes made in these charts, in these schedules. There's also the ability to go at and mention somebody if you want to draw their attention. You put a name, you put a comment, they will get an email with a link back to this workflow so you can easily cooperate. The process, every activity here in the process, these are what we call them, has a complete button, which once you click on that will lock down the data in this phase. As you can see, it turns green. So data flows through all the time, but locking means that's it. It's not changeable. I cannot pull this trial balance in again from a remote system. It's locked. And the reason, or the important bit, is that once these are ticked off, only then can you go through and actually click on the sign-off activity. Now, this is a sign-off, each to their own in terms of your preference. We can have none, we can have 14 of these approval steps during the process. Traditionally, there's one for a senior manager, you know, the 4I principle and so on, just to make sure that it comes, that there's another check before you produce the output. And then at the very end, and only after the sign-off, can you actually download the Globy report that's expected to be in XML. That is it. I'm just aware of time. Fall through, get the reports at the other end, and that's it. I think I'll just pause here and give us some space for questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire and Roy. Appreciate that. Was a bit of a quick canter through in terms of the solution that was there today. I appreciate. We do ask all of our special guests to run through in 20 minutes. So thank you very much for sticking to time. We've got a couple of minutes left. If anybody has any questions for Claire and Roy, please do pop them in the Q&A section. What will happen after this session is we will have an email go around in terms of any additional, an offer of a deep dive where you can spend a bit more time with our team and Claire and Roy to be able to see the product in a bit more detail than a 10-minute overview, but hopefully that's whetted your appetite and giving you an indication of what's there. Let me just put Roy on the spot for a second, Roy. Obviously, in terms of he loves it really. In terms of the ARRK solution, then what's the one thing that kind of makes it stand out from a customer perspective compared to the other products and stuff that are in the market at the moment?
Well, I think there's two aspects. One is the flexibility of it, the fact that it's configurable, which means that if you've got the one system, the trial balance to pull into map, and that's easily done. But it also means that if you've got 15 different variants of SAP in your business, and you want to take into account consolidation feeds that you may have and so forth, we can mechanize all of that. There's absolutely no limitation to what the process is. We can be expanded quite easily to capture everything you've got. I think the other thing I'd say that if you're looking at solutions out there, say like Alteryx, and you might say, oh, that's also a data aggregator. It's true. But Alteryx has nothing in mind in terms of the commit points, in terms of the governance, in terms of versioning and so on, which we do cater for. So we combine both the data aggregation and capabilities on a technical perspective, but also the governance and control aspects that I think are required in a tax and finance environment.
Thanks, Roy. And I guess last question from me in terms of what's next for ARRK solutions. Then you've got a transfer pricing solution, a VAT solution, a Pillar 2 solution. Where's your brain going next?
There's a couple of things. One of them is to actually host other computational modules by different providers so that we can elaborate more. I haven't spoken about this, but there's the expectation that over time we will accommodate the QDMTT calculations as well. So once we start on that journey, we might look at CP in general just to see how that sort of comes in. There's the other aspects, working with partners like yourself on a multi-tenanted option whereby it's co-sourced and you get the advisors to help you alongside the other side of it. And there's also other aspects in finance a bit further down the way in terms of reconciliation and other bits and pieces that we would like to add on to the platform.
Fabulous. Well, that brings us nicely to time. Thank you all very, very much for attending. As I said, please look out for our next webinar in this series, but also keep an eye out for the notifications if you want to spend a bit more time with Roy and Claire to understand their product and their solution a little bit better. Those emails will be coming out hopefully at the end of the week. So thank you all very much for joining and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.